Welcome back to Silicon Wafers, and this is a dramatic story. We're zeroing in on the Black Sea in today's episode, much like Ukrainian drones. Ukraine's sea drone campaign has lit up Russia's oil hub at Tuapse with a tanker fire, damaged loading gear, and, as per independent analysis, apparently creating an oil slick stretching several kilometers into open water. We'll unpack the strike, the satellite evidence, the logistics pain for Moscow, and why this energy war matters for Ukraine's survival through a tough winter campaign. Before we jump into it, thanking everyone who supports the channel through Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, as well as everyone who adds comments to the videos, likes, shares, and of course subscribes. Your support is massively appreciated. So let's jump in. What happened at Tuapse on the night of November 1st to 2nd? In the early hours of November 2nd, long-range Ukrainian drones hit the Tuapse oil terminal on Russia's Black Sea coast. Russian regional authorities acknowledged two foreign flag vessels were damaged and that fires broke out at the terminal. Footage showed a tanker ablaze alongside port infrastructure. The latest tally puts the damage higher than the admitted losses. Now, apparently, it's up to 4 ships seriously damaged. Reuters summed it up bluntly. A Ukrainian drone attack struck one of Russia's main Black Sea oil ports, causing a fire and damaging at least 1 ship. That's from Reuters on November 2nd. Now, on November 4th, we know that tally is higher than that. Here are some of the details and corroboration. A Ukrainian security source told Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, that drones hit an oil terminal, damaging a tanker and port equipment. Kiev-based outlets amplified the details that a Russian oil tanker burned after the strike. Ukraine's Navy spokesperson, Dmytro Pletenchuk, said the raid would have long-term consequences for Russia's logistics. That was reported in the Kiev Independent. Well, why strike Tuapse and why now? It's one of the largest Black Sea export terminals for crude and oil products and a critical outlet for Rosneft's southern system. Hitting it reverberates through the regime. It threatens the war economy revenue and future export potential from Putin's Russia, quite apart from the chaos on the ground and the impact on oil storage management. Well, that is from Kiev Post. And we do have satellite confirmation of the fire, the rupture, and a measurable slick. United 24 reported that satellite images revealed pipeline rupture and a tanker fire at the Tuapse oil terminal after the attack, indicating direct damage along the loading system. That's November 3rd, United 24 media. BBC analysis of NASA satellite images reported by the Moscow Times found an oil slick 3.6 kilometers long, extending from the terminal into the Black Sea. And on November 4th, Maritime Executive independently wrote, satellite imaging confirms that the oil was spilled after the Ukrainian attack, while relaying OSINT claims that multiple foreign flag tankers were affected. Well, here's some environmental context provided by that same publication. The Black Sea is routinely monitored by SAR or optical satellites for oil films. Multi-sensor methods can delineate slick signatures and drift, which is key for cleanup and for attribution, although in this case the cause, the attribution seems to be clear, and the context is clear too. It is Russia's full-scale war to try and erase Ukraine. Well, this campaign is not a one-off. Rather, it is part of a GUR doctrine to paralyze the Russian energy logistics system. Well, this strike fits a pattern in 2025. In late September, a GUR source told the Kiev Independent that naval drones hit Tuapse and Novorossiysk, paralyzing key Black Sea oil terminals and disrupting export operations. Local authorities said that 2 foreign flag vessels were damaged. Operational HQ later claimed fires were extinguished. Of course they did. Reuters roundup noted at least 1 ship hit and flames spotted at the terminal. OSINT and Maritime reporting, the Maritime Executive cited a Russian military analyst channel called Dossier Shpiona, claiming 3 foreign flag tankers, Greek Pollux, Coastbuster and Turkish Chai, were affected and a small vessel destroyed. It published an annotated satellite view of the strike zone. While we should not treat this as fact until further information is released or pending registry and insurer confirmations, if indeed anyone wants to admit that their ships were sanction busting for a genocidal imperial power. Euromaidan press echoed that Chai likely burned. Russia simultaneously claimed vast numbers of incoming drones, and of course, they were all intercepted. This is a familiar messaging pattern from Russia when such attacks happen. Well, that's from Euromaidan Press. Well, here is the energy war math, the costs, something about insurance and the Shadow Fleet. Moscow routinely announces successful drone suppression, only to suggest that fragments of drones or air defense systems caused the damage and fires on the ground. This is no longer credible, even for most ardent Z patriots. They typically claim almost immediate resumption of operations as well, but in this case, a quick turnaround is hardly feasible based on the data that we have so far. The cumulative effect of repeated strikes from the Black Sea coast to refineries deep in Russia has been to stretch repair crews, spare parts, and air defense coverage, while having a dramatic impact on reducing Russia's oil products refining and export potential. Well, this is taken from context reporting, the running tally run by Reuters of refinery and terminal hits across 2025. They are, of course, substantial. Well, what is the military impact from ports to the front line? There are operational consequences. Oil terminals like Tuapse handle products and crude tied into Russia's southern logistics. When loadouts are delayed, rail and road backfill takes the strain. It's less efficient, it's more vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks. And the press release line from Ukraine's Navy after the strike really confirms this. They said the raid would have long-term consequences for Russia's energy export capacity. Pair this with Ukraine's targeting of Russian energy assets deep inland, depots, refineries, pipelines, and you get sustained pressure on military logistics, jet fuel, diesel, and bunker supply, inputs that feed everything from bombers to ammo trucks to fighting vehicles. And there is a pattern of strikes as well as a pattern of Russian bluff. Regional officials emphasized that fires were put out and operations continued almost immediately. The Defense Ministry claimed large numbers of drones were intercepted. Reuters also noted that 60,000 Ukrainians lost power the same weekend in Russia's retaliatory strikes, a reminder that this is a two-way energy war. There are, however, strong indicators that Gore naval drones were used in the raids, the same ones used in both the Novorossiysk and the earlier Tuapse strikes on those export hubs. They have the extraordinary effect of paralyzing Russian export operations and set up a pattern for success, which we expect to be repeated over the coming weeks and months. That's from the Kiev Independent. Well, what to watch out for next? Of course, we should watch out for repeat raids, whether Ukraine pushes a follow-on wave at Novorossiysk or inland junctions that feed Tuapse, keeping the onus, the pressure of repair and costly defense on Russia. And we should watch out for satellite updates as well. New imagery confirming the ship and port damage, the repairs versus the lingering oil sheens on the surface of the Black Sea waters, which would help in an assessment of the damage, both physical and reputational, to the Russian regime and the infrastructure that pays for the war. That's from Moscow Times. We will follow up on this story because I'm sure there will be new strikes that fit the same pattern over the coming days and weeks. Before we move on to the next question, I'd like to make a personal recommendation that I know you will appreciate. You may have seen my interview last week with the producer of the film series Kiev of Mine, Ronnie Apteker. Well, I've partnered with them to help raise awareness of what I believe is an important series of films made for a Western audience to help break through absurd stereotypes about Ukraine, some of which, of course, are amplified by Russian propaganda. You can watch these films for free now. Details in a second. Kiev of Mine is a documentary series about Ukraine's extraordinary capital, which I had the privilege to visit for the first time in January this year. The film production began in 2018, and of course much has changed since then. It's now 2025, and the story is far from over. Kiev of Mine is a fast-paced, beautifully filmed, humorous, fun, insightful, heartbreaking, moving, and hopeful work. The very antithesis, in fact, of a doom-laden and worthy wartime documentary. This is a work that is extraordinarily uplifting. My friend Operator Starsky says the film is made with so much love. The film series will make you laugh and cry. It's the only film about Ukraine that began before the war yet has traced lives through the tumultuous times and which follows the lives of more than a dozen Ukrainians in real time. This is an historic period told through highly personal and emotive stories from Kiev's days of emerging prosperity after the Maidan Revolution through COVID and the full-scale invasion. This film is a breath of fresh air. Ukraine deserves a better conversation in the world, one that isn't centered around war, says Jolyon Ellis, filmmaker on Kiev of Mine. It's hard not to argue with that, and the filmmakers have fully delivered on this promise. This is essential watching for anyone who calls themselves pro-Ukrainian, but I think it's also vital to get friends, colleagues, and family to watch it too, because the reality is few people have a vivid impression of Ukraine or any direct connection with its people. War is inhumane and abstract. Building an alternative perception is essential for engaging the world with the importance of Ukraine's struggle. A final word from our partners, the makers of Kiev of Mine. All three films are now available to watch for free on YouTube. Please check out the links to the dedicated website, which tells you more about the film, its subjects, and the filmmakers. Also in the description is a link to the YouTube channel where you can watch the films now. Do let us know in the comments what you think of them and if they inspire you as much as they have inspired me.